When the whole family comes together to watch the game, nobody wants to miss a second of the action to run to the grocery store. With Instacart, you can get all your weekly groceries in as fast as an hour. Less time shopping means more game time. Let's go. Visit instacart.com to get free delivery on your first 3 orders. Offer valid for a limited time. $10 minimum per order. Additional terms apply.
Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Welcome to the PowerCat Podcast, GoPowerCat.com's Kansas State Athletics Show. Now, here's your host, GoPowerCat publisher, Tim Fitzgerald.
Welcome to this week's episode of the PowerCat Questions Podcast. Tim Fitzgerald, Zach Carlson, Ryan Gilbert. Those two boys are back from Lubbock safely. Ryan Gilbert, are you going to sneeze? What's going on?
I don't know. Maybe.
You're hiding your face in your shirt. Are you playing like? Are you shy?
I think I got something in Lubbock. I'm a little under the weather.
Yeah. Okay. Don't ever say I think I got something in Lubbock ever again, because that sounds a lot worse than you meant it to sound.
Thank you for the napkin.
No problem. We're sponsored by the Fridge Wholesale Liquor. Whew, that's hard to say. Make sure you get something when you go there. Get in there. Buy liquor. It's wholesale. Look, if you have never been to the Fridge when you come to town this weekend for the game, because you're coming to town this weekend for the game, I don't care where you're at. If you're one of our listeners in the Far East, you're coming. If you're in Europe, you're coming. Our South American entourage, you get up here. Everyone go to the TCU game. It's going to be a big game Saturday night at Bill Snyder Family Stadium, and the Fridge is just around the corner. Stop there. Get whatever you need for your tailgate. Head to the parking lot and let the show begin. That's a good way to segue right into. Here's your questions from Wabash Station. Ryan Gilbert.
From KSU number 1. Who do you start at quarterback on Saturday?
Will Howard. I think Will Howard's going to start. I look, Avery was great. This might be sustainable, but I think they want more. They want to see more here. And TCU will now have film. They have a better defense. They'll challenge Avery. Avery's going to play. Don't get me wrong, but I think Will Howard starts. If he doesn't, I'll be a little surprised, but I think they're going to juggle the two. And for the next couple weeks until they go to Texas, when I expect Avery Johnson to get his first career start.
You think at Texas?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I think after seeing TCU's defense and Houston's defense, I think they'll say, oh, well, this is, if he plays well. Who knows? Maybe Will responds with this and plays great, and you end up with two quarterbacks going pretty good. But I do think if everything plays out as the way it possibly could, I think Avery starts at Texas.
Interesting. I think you start Will Howard this Saturday, mostly because to protect Avery a little bit, because if Will struggles, obviously you can bring Avery in and, whether or not Avery wins the game for K-State or not, I don't think it's going to fall too much on him at that point. But if you start Avery and he doesn't play well, I mean, what are the fans going to do? What are the fans going to do? What is that going to do to Avery Johnson's confidence if he comes out, can't get K-State down the field, they start him and K-State's down 14-0, 17-3. What happens? Avery Johnson played great on Saturday at Texas Tech. Incredible performance. But what happens if he's not playing as well as he did? because I don't think he's going to have as great of a game. If they start him, whether he plays well or not, he's not going to play as well as he did on Saturday. But, the fan base has been clamoring for Avery Johnson for a long time now. Avery Johnson definitely backed up and earned his spot on the field for K-State. But at the same time, how quickly, how patient can K-State fans be with Avery Johnson when things don't go well, when he's making freshman mistakes?
Yeah.
He's incredible talent, but there's still going to be a bit of a learning curve here too.
My initial thought on Saturday was, okay, you've got to roll with Avery for the rest of the season. This is it. Don't look back. Will Howard did some great things, but it's time to move on. But as I sat on it, as I listened to Chris Klieman talk, the players talk, and you just think about Texas Tech's defense, the way that group is awful against the run, the quarterback run. You do have a predicament on your hand. You can't just ditch Will Howard after everything he's done. And if you ask Chris Klieman this question, I don't think he even knows. And a lot of the times we get coach speak from him in his press conferences, but he seemed pretty genuine that he didn't know he was going to start on Saturday when we talked to him on Tuesday at his press conference. And so later throughout the week, I'm sure he'll get a better feel. But at this point, I don't think he even knows.
Look, they go with a hot hand at running back, and apparently they're going to try that at quarterback. It worked great Saturday at Texas Tech. It won't always work. I mean, sometimes the running game falters even though you got two guys. I do think they inadvertently tripped into some pretty good pairings here. I think DJ Giddens pairs really well with Will Howard in terms of he's a good pass protector, can power run the ball, is an available receiver. And, we saw Ward come in and just really blossom with having Avery Johnson and the zone read put together. Those two are dangerous. It was a lot of fun to watch. But I'm going to step aside here and say this. Will Howard, in all likelihood, will start Saturday. And in all likelihood, some fans will boo that. And I'm just telling you, if you're a fan, you need to shut him down. Will Howard did so much for this program last year. He just won a Big 12 title. We're just a year removed from everyone partying with him on the field after the Oklahoma State game in which they routed the Cowboys in Manhattan. You don't throw someone aside that quickly who has done something for you. You do what's best for the team, and if Chris Klieman thinks that's Will Howard starting another game or two in the short term to see how this plays out, then that's what's going to happen. But booing your own quarterback after he's done so much, man, that's a bad luck. I hope it doesn't happen.
Exactly my point to why I'm worried for Avery not having success early.
People will turn on you.
If it took less than 6 games to turn on Will Howard, how many games is it going to take to turn on Avery Johnson, who's a freshman? By the end of the season, if God forbid something happens to Will Howard and Avery Johnson is the starter for the rest of the season, and K-State barely makes it to the Cactus Bowl, I mean, K-State fans are going to be done with Avery Johnson based on what they've said about Will Howard. I'm sorry, but it's just not fair to anybody.
Fans are fickle. They want the backup quarterback. They'll be screaming for Jake Rubley.
Klieman's decision to play Johnson was awesome. It was phenomenal just based off of the matchup. But, boy, the situation that he has now created for his fan base, for his team, for his quarterback room, I don't want to say the optics are bad, but it's not a good situation that he created despite getting a good win.
Now, I think this team will handle it. I'm talking to Hayden Gilman, who's really close with Will Howard. He's probably the only man that gets to touch his butt. That's how close they are. Look, it's obvious Avery Johnson energizes the team, and Hayden talked about that, about how he really does. He's fun to play with. That's fun. Someone asked him about the pulling on that 30-yard run and just watching the guy break it into the open field. They love it. It's really cool. So no matter who's on the field, this team's going to support him. But setting aside the fact that the run game works so well, I thought the tempo of the offense got back to what it needed to be with Avery on the field. It was more definitive. It almost felt like Will's been overthinking things a little bit this season as opposed to just going and playing. And maybe this will recenter him.
From Pickles, is Sunshine the last creative nickname possible for Avery?
Least creative.
Sorry. Hey, you know what? I'm gonna blame Zach here.
I forgot to. There was a typo, and I forgot to edit the typo.
Come on, Pickles, be better.
But I agree with Pickles here. It is the least creative nickname possible for.
Are you bashing Fitz's DD?
Yes.
Man, it's hard around here. We did learn today that I thought he was called that in the locker room, but he's not. They call him Avery, which is that's the worst nickname for a guy named Avery. Is Avery?
I disagree.
Okay.
I don't think he has a nickname.
Well,
I think that people look like that guy looks like Ronnie Bass, and he's a backup quarterback. Let's go with that.
But I think the nickname plays beyond that comparison from the movie. I think even if you don't know about that, the way with his hair, I just think Sunshine sounds okay. It's easy to sell. It's marketable. I'm in on it.
It's not intimidating.
But I don't care about that.
Like Iron Will, that's scary.
Does that kid look intimidating with that blonde hair and that baby face? No.
Yes, because you know exactly what he's going to do to you.
On the field, yeah.
He's going to be a ray of sunshine. I am only going to support Sunshine as his nickname, and I brought this up on the Insiders, and this has got to be a thing. I want the nickname Moonlight.
You personally?
Yeah, Moonlight. If he gets to be Sunshine, this bald dome gets to be Moonlight.
It makes sense because Saturday was the eclipse day, right? We had sunshine and moonlight.
There we go.
Which me and Zach were in the heart of.
That explains why you came back so strange.
Yeah. It's us.
I'm in on Sunshine, but yeah, if Avery says, yeah, I'm not really into it, I'm also in on ending it. Whatever Avery wants, right? I think we can all agree on that.
It's whatever Gillum wants. He wants you to play O-lineman for him, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's designing plays for me.
I forgot what I was going to say.
Sorry.
Oh, no, I just think it's funny that you haven't seen Remember the Titans.
Okay, so I didn't realize it came out in 2000. There's like a 3-year blackout of anything fun the Fitzgeralds did after starting our company in 98, and that clearly was one of it. And I've also noticed I've got a giant hole in my music in that period of time. I didn't listen to any music during that time.
Wow, like the whole boy band era was just Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, 98 Degrees, Britney Spears.
No.
Awful.
I know. It's worked out well. But we didn't do anything other than work. So I didn't watch Remember the Titans, but it's now on my to-do list.
Gills, how many times did you watch Remember the Titans on a roll-in TV in elementary school?
That I can remember, 0.
Oh.
Sorry.
Okay. Multiple times, I think. I think we chose that movie all the time.
You must have had a better childhood than me.
Yeah.
Oh, that's easy to do. You grew up in a cardboard box on the hard streets of Kansas City.
Spare change.
Yep.
Hey, that's Cole, not me.
No, yeah, that's right.
Hard streets of Olathe, Kansas.
Right.
From came to elevate after the way special teams played at Texas Tech. Are special teams back on track? What still needs to improve?
Well, the return game still isn't much of a threat. You know, Chris Klieman talked about how everyone's, kicking it through the end zone. Yeah, Coach, there's more touchbacks, but you were fair catching at Oklahoma State. Balls that were in the field. And it happened again. I mean, I see why they do it, because they never get back to the 25. If you can't get back to the 25 on a regular basis as a return unit, what are you doing? Whatever they're doing schematically isn't working, and the guys aren't executing. Phillip Brooks had a punt return where he caught the ball and he was just surrounded. And again, I said on the Insiders, he probably thought, oh, this is how Custer felt. I mean, he was just surrounded. This was a bad decision. Nobody blocked. So it's a problem. But they're kind of digging down into special teams now, using a lot of guys that haven't played a lot because the injuries are taking out some players that would normally be on. Well, they're taking the players that are on special teams because now they need to play regular roles.
I mean, like when you look at punt return, they don't send anybody to block it, but also they don't block the offense, defense, whatever, the kicking team well enough to get a return. It's like they aren't doing anything. There's 10 bodies out there, and Phillip Brooks out on his own trying to make something happen, and he just can't. I mean, it's just frustrating to look at that. I do like they changed some personnel on kick return.
Yep.
So, they're trying different things, but schematically, there's something off, and I don't really get it. But Seth Porter definitely played well.
Oh, my gosh.
Which is such a weird thing to say about a guy on special teams, but Seth Porter played very well on Saturday.
I felt like he was just running around tackling people. Maybe when the camera went on him on the sideline, he was tackling people. In the locker room, he was tackling people.
How many wide receivers are out there getting more tackles than catches?
It was impressive.
Yeah.
He just terminated a lot of special teams plays. And then he punched the air so violently.
He's fired up.
Are you okay over there?
I'm good, yes, sir.
Don't blame my dogs.
Don't cough in my face, Skills.
I blame somebody that coughed in my face in Lubbock.
Oh, man, I bet you were just like sick. I probably turned green in the face.
Would you like me to ask the next question?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Last question of the first half is from 32 Flu. Maybe that's what I have right now.
Wow.
Do K-State coaches instruct the players to slide after an interception versus getting tackled? It's maddening to watch.
That was funny. And Kobe Savage was asked about it today by Glenn Kittle. He goes, I don't know why I did it. I don't know why I did it. I just did it. I wanted to make sure the ball was secure. I think he thought, hey, we got a turnover. Let's get down here and start the offense up again. I don't know. I just think he reacted.
It felt like, I don't know if he thought the game was like over, like one of those situations where it's just like, hey, or like the game's like less than a possession, where like at that point they had a cushion lead.
Yeah.
Like they had Texas Tech needed to score multiple times to come back and tie or even take the lead at that point. I think it's just one of those things where you're just like, not a lot of time. Let's control the football instead of maybe giving it back. But it was
only one that out of the three picks that happened. Kobe's second one was in the back of the end zone, and he went down like a baseball player to catch it. And then, of course, VJ returned his after the most casual interception in the history of football. Yep. Thank you, Daphne. That was, he just like stuck his arm out so the ball could just slide in under his arm. Yeah. And then he just took off running. It was so
And then he ran
weird.
a giant arc. Like he ran all the way to the other sideline and then turned in, and he probably ran 100 yards.
It was good to have interceptions. I would like to see Kobe have a pick six. That would be fun. He's playing incredibly well right now. Since they swapped those safety positions, I think it's benefited both guys, and I think Kobe's back to being the headhunter, and it's fun to watch.
Kobe was inches away from a third interception. I guess that came before his second one, so maybe it wouldn't have happened anyway.
Yeah, but in the end, he got as many interceptions as he would have had.
Yeah.
But
sure,
who knows? Maybe if he got the first one, then they had an extra drive. Maybe he gets another one. Who knows? But yeah,
returns the first one, and I don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He
fumbles it on the return.
I think that was going through his head. And honestly,
maybe.
If you're worried about that, just get down, because you've seen what your offense can do. So just give them the ball and let them go. And that's what happened, and that's what worked.
Did I not warn you? I did warn you.
No?
I don't know if
did I properly warn you? That was the last question.
That was the last question.
Man,
I'm sorry if I didn't, Fitz.
Guys, look, let's have a little meeting here. Let me turn the mics off. You guys suck. You guys aren't doing your jobs.
Why are you pointing at me when you say that?
I'm sorry.
He's not looking at me.
No, I forgot to turn the mics off. That's it for the first half of the PowerCat Questions podcast. It was kind of a short one. Yeah, I don't know why we were so short-winded. What was it? Is that a phrase, short-winded, as opposed to long-winded?
Probably.
Are you winded? I don't know. We'll be back. Go stop by the fridge while we're in commercial break. Just go do that.
GoPowerCat.com's PowerCat podcast continues after this short break.
Is your January looking dry? Get some lotion. Get a humidifier. And better yet, get Drizzly, the go-to app for drink delivery. With Drizzly, you can compare prices across local stores to get the best price on a huge selection of drinks perfect for dry January. Every single time. Non-alcoholic wines? Have a look. Ready-made mocktails, grab a straw and order 'em up. Beer without the alcohol? Yep, take your pick. You can find all of them here, in the app, in that phone that's in your hand. Could it be any simpler? Nope, not a chance. So shop for great deals on all your dry January beverages or other drinks and get them delivered to your door or blanket fort, maybe. Download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com. That's DRIZLY.com. Must be 21 plus, not available in all locations. And don't forget to lotion up your elbows. They're looking a little dry.
Welcome back to the Power Cat Podcast.
Welcome back to the Power Cat Questions Podcast, sponsored by Fridge Wholesale Liquor. 3 men and only 1 dog today. It's just how it is. The big boy dude is off getting groomed to look handsome.
It's about time.
Oh, he was a mess.
Tired of petting him. He's disgusting.
He got pretty, it was like petting Gilbert. He just really regretted it later.
Greasy.
Greasy. Make sure you stop in at the Fridge when you come to town this weekend for TCU and K-State. Next week it is Houston and K-State at Bill Snyder Family Stadium. That will be homecoming. So come home and go to the Fridge.
Does it bother you when homecoming games are after a home game?
Huh?
Like K-State's at home this weekend, but homecoming is next weekend. Homecoming is always, at least how I think homecoming should be after a road game. It's the first game of a homestand. It's homecoming. You're coming home.
They play it. Homecoming is always the closest to Halloween game they can.
Either before or after?
I don't know that they're done after. It might be before. But that would be it. I mean, you can't have homecoming at a Texas game.
No. But the 28th is closer to the 31st, is it not?
28th. What? Yeah, 20. Yeah.
The 4th is further away from Halloween than the 28th.
That's why it's Houston. You just proved my point.
Sorry. It's just something that bothers me. Homecoming games should be after a road game. Because you're coming home.
That's not what the word means.
But it is.
It means alumni are supposed to come home.
Yeah, and the team comes home after a road game.
That happens like 6-7 times a season. Here's your questions from Wabash Station.
Schedule your homecoming properly.
Zach's going to keep talking about this. Let me get his mic off. Gilbert asked us a question.
First question of the second half from Domer Cat.
Domer.
Every team K-State plays, even FCS ones, appear to have at least one receiver who can separate and one who is bigger that can compete for 50-50 balls. K-State does not really have either on the team this year. I believe that the loss of Malik Knowles and Cade Warner are a major reason behind Will Howard's poor play. Why does K-State not have receivers who can compete at a Power 5 level?
I think the receiver room is in desperate need of an upgrade. And not, I mean, they need a go-to guy, but they just need that room more competitive. I think they've done a good job with the younger classes. That maybe they'll mature into it. We're now seeing Jace Brown out there, which is a good sign. But, man, I felt this way for a number of years, even when Malik Knowles was around. They just don't have enough depth and talent in the receiver room. They don't. And even if you're going to have Sunshine running the ball all over the field, you still need quality receivers to make this offense really click. And they got to go find more. They got to go find more. And it's time to really look into the portal for a guy that can come in and really play. Like Keegan Johnson, we all thought it was Iowa. They didn't throw the ball very much. He was injured. And he's been the same guy here.
For how well K-State has done in the transfer portal across the board, every position except for wide receiver. I don't understand now in the era of the transfer portal and you can buy players with NIL, how you can't look at the top wide receiver in the portal and say, what do you need to come here? Because we will make it happen. Look at what our wide receivers have done. We need a guy like you.
I don't know.
And maybe those types of guys just aren't good locker room fits. I don't know.
I think the coaching staff wants bidding wars for players.
I agree with.
I get that, but at the same time, even if you're not quote unquote buying a player, you can make the pitch. Look, we were terrible at wide receiver. We don't have any athletes with your body on our team. do you understand the role that we can have you play? I think that's the sales pitch to these players in the portal, because you can go find, just like what we've seen at running back, with Adrian Martinez last year, defensive secondary, whatever, with Kobe Savage, Josh Hayes, there's Russ Yeast, there's plenty of guys that, in fact, are in the league right now that I don't understand how you can't just get one wide receiver that is an NFL talent and convince them to come to K-State.
Hey,
because
Malik Knowles, by definition, was NFL talent.
He is on the injured reserve for the Minnesota Vikings.
Oh, no, he got cut long ago.
Yeah, he got cut.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, maybe I should update my article.
Still did.
This is what I don't get. We saw a really good receiver for Troy, right? Maybe he's not a good locker room guy. I get that. That's important to Chris Klieman. You can't lose your locker room. But that kid was at Kentucky and ended up at Troy. So obviously, if Kansas State had come a calling, he might have listened to play in the Big 12. Or maybe he just wanted to be, home in Alabama. I'm not sure. But there's guys out there. And if they're more comfortable trying to find that one AA guy, where did that come from? FCS guy, that's like how old is that reference? Like 15 years now? It's been.
Oh, don't beat yourself up too hard.
Man,
that's not that bad.
Man, an FCS guy that can move up and is willing and ready to move up, because those guys exist. We know that we've seen them at other positions. There's got to be receivers out there. They've got to upgrade that position, make it more competitive and deeper. And also, I don't think they've been rotating receivers enough. You brought this up, Zach. I think they've just stuck with the main guys they've had. And even though they're not playing well, they just keep shuffling the same deck. Try some guys. Maybe there's some gamers out there. You didn't want to play Jaden Jackson, and you had to play him because of injury. And look what happened. He turned into a viable guy in the 2-deep, even though he runs the wrong pattern once in a while.
Chase Brown.
Yeah.
I mean, playing guys.
Yep.
Get some more guys into the mix.
Agreed.
To an extent here, K-State being sort of a developmental program, wide receivers probably one of the hardest to get those guys to be good players. You look at the linebackers, that's a very thin group right now. They're not playing amazing, but they're getting by, right? I think K-State's wide receivers, sure, they may be getting by, but I would say that's probably a worse group than linebackers right now. And it's just tougher to gain separation when you just don't have that quickness. That linebacker, I hate to compare just these two positions, but you can tackle, right? You can be strong and you can at least do your part, right? If you're a wideout, and you're not developed, if you're a guy like pick Sterling Lockett who's not ready to play right now, there's not much you can do as a wide receiver. So just the way K-State recruits, and maybe that's the solution here, put more of an emphasis on wideouts. Stop caring about other positions. If this is a recurring theme here, pay attention to wideouts. But I just think that K-State being a developmental program has something to do with this.
Well, let me point out that if you're a really athletic running back and you make a wrong read after getting a handoff, you can still make something happen, right? I mean, if you have some holes in your knowledge of the playbook, a running back can cover it up. A receiver has to know what to do, where to be. The quarterback expects him to be there, and do it at game speed. There's no opportunity to do a thinking process. It has to be reaction, has to be ingrained. You have to have this trained behavior that on this play I do this, I plant my foot, I go this way, da-da-da-da. And then you have to, complete the catch and do all the stuff you got to do at a receiver. In some ways, to play receiver, you got to be a finished product before you ever get on the field, or you're not going to get on the field, because we've seen it. We've seen receivers running the wrong pattern, and we've seen the result, what happens. Now, there's been a lot of things that have gone on around, but let's just use, for example, if a guy's supposed to do a crossing pattern and all of a sudden doesn't do it because he went deep and totally ran the wrong pattern, and then Will Howard looks up and sees a receiver in that area and misfires to him with pressure in his face, everyone gets mad at Will Howard. I mean, that wasn't what the play was supposed to do. The guy who was supposed to get the pass wasn't anywhere where he was supposed to be. And that's where you get in trouble with receivers. And they end up just investing time in the guys who are most advanced. I understand why, but boy, you better get these young guys advanced, because what we're seeing doesn't work. Just didn't get the job done, period.
If there is maybe one negative of Avery Johnson, now playing a prominent role, he and Will Howard can only have so many reps with the ones at the wide receiver position. So that might hurt this team even more with the wideouts, as much as that sucks to say.
Well, I'm all for.
Yeah, sure. I'm not complaining.
Putting the young guy out there, putting the young receivers out there that have played with Avery. If that's
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And look, I think if you're going to situationally substitute your quarterbacks, the personnel around him might need to do the same thing. I want to see Avery Johnson in the backfield with Trayshawn Ward, period. That is very difficult. That puts a lot of stress on a defense.
And I'd assume he's gotten a lot of reps with Jace Brown over any other wideout throughout the offseason.
Yep.
Bring it on.
Yep, do it.
From Win-Win 1943, how does Will Howard's play affect his potential for being drafted? What does he need to do for the rest of the year?
Well, I don't think anything he's doing this year will get him drafted. He was kind of borderline. I thought if he had a really good season, he could get into the draft. I think this is something I never thought I'd be saying. I think we need to consider that Will Howard will be in the transfer portal at season's end. That's entirely possible. I think it's clear he needs a fresh, good senior season. He wasn't getting that already. It wasn't because he's not getting the opportunity. He hasn't played as well. I know a lot of the quarterbacks will hit the transfer portal because of the presence of Avery Johnson. This is going to be a problem. They might need to go find another quarterback out of the portal that understands his role will be a backup. But Will Howard's a starting quarterback and can be, and might need to go somewhere else if he wants to play one more season. I don't think he's draftable at this point. Maybe he knows he can not be drafted, become a free agent, make a team. Maybe that's what his confidence level is. But if I had to guess, he'll transfer, try to put something more on film. And I'd encourage him to consider maybe going down a step. Look, good quarterback's a good quarterback. And I'd go where you can find the receivers and the protection and go to that school. Not because it's close to home, not because it's prominent, not because you can win a championship. If you're really transferring because you want to be an NFL quarterback, go where the receivers will receive and the line will block and protect you. But I think there could be massive changes in that quarterback room if Avery Johnson actually blows up to the level that he could.
I mean, Josh Allen played at Wyoming.
Yeah.
That worked out for him.
And there's some comparisons there. And, I don't know what Wyoming's got going at quarterback, but there's a lot of sense there that Chris Klieman's old boss might take him.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Will's an NFL quarterback, but he just hasn't played enough. And a lot of that rests with how Will played as a younger player and how maybe, what happened his freshman year and the troubles he ran into because he had to play. Maybe it deflated his ego or his confidence, and now he's got it back, and now he's lost it. Now he's got to rebuild it, and he just needs to play more.
If you ask anyone on the basketball staff if there's any bad blood with Ish Massoud, there's zero. They all love him. I'm not saying that Ish Massoud's going to go play in the NBA. He's not. But Will Howard, if he does decide to leave, it might just be for his best interest, and I think everybody could be okay with that if Avery Johnson does develop into that type of player that we think he might be. So during Ish Massoud's season last year, his foot was in a way out the door. Everybody knew he was going to be leaving by the time Big 12 play even started. That being said, he was still a team player. He still played a prominent role in the team's run to the Elite Eight. And who's to say Howard can't be that way for the rest of this season if Avery does get that job by the time we said the Texas game, right? Who's to say Howard can't be that guy? There doesn't have to be any bad blood just because you're deciding to transfer, because ultimately for Will Howard's professional career, it's probably going to be like you Fitz unless something changes here, unless the trajectory goes a different way over these couple of games. That's going to be his best bet to try to get on an NFL squad, is to play one final season at a different school to prove that he can be an NFL quarterback and that he can be a guy that doesn't turn it over, that makes smart, timely passes, and like you said, Fitz, a team with better wideouts and weapons surrounding him.
See, I think Will Howard transferring, I think it'll leave a sour taste in some K-State fans' mouth, not because he's leaving, but just kind of the way he was treated by the fans on the way out. I mean, I want Will Howard to leave K-State on his own terms, own success. Right. It feels, I don't want it to feel like he's being forced out. He has to go somewhere else to play. I think he absolutely can play at K-State, but Avery Johnson presents that problem.
Now, with all this said, do not write off Will Howard. We did that once, and he proved us wrong last year. So don't write him off. The reality is Avery's a true freshman, and Avery's probably 15 pounds under what he needs to play at to withstand some of the hits. If a linebacker, a big physical Big 12 linebacker, squares up Avery and drills him, Will Howard might be in the game real fast. So Will can play at a high level. We've seen it. It's not just talk, and maybe he'll get back to that. Maybe Saturday he'll come out and sling it all over the field, and everyone will be happy. And I think that'd be a really good thing for K-State football if Will came out and put up a really big game. Avery comes in, runs the ball with success, and Will's throwing it with success. I hope they both can thrive.
From Call Me T22, basketball is unofficially ranked number 35. Are people sleeping on Jerome Tang and company?
Yes. And I don't – did you learn nothing from last year? It's not like the cupboard's empty. They returned some nice pieces. Granted, they lost their two best players, but they brought in two really good players. They're going to step into those roles while everyone else matures. I don't quite understand it, but that's okay. I think Jerome Tang probably doesn't mind. You to play that underdog role a little bit. Nobody respects us. Let's go do what we did last year. I'm all in. I think they're going to be okay. Will they be as good as last year? Look, that's a lot to ask. I can't get there, but I can tell you I think this is a top 25 team.
If they beat USC, it's not a big deal. They're going to be in the top 25 until probably sometime in conference play, and maybe they don't leave the poll. So, 35th, you're 10 spots out of the top 25. It's the preseason. Preseason rankings, if you put any weight into them, especially in basketball, the entire season will play itself out.
You know what UConn was ranked last year in the preseason?
What were they?
They weren't.
Exactly.
Trick question. Boom.
Exactly. And just the way that the postseason structure is, you were trying to make a tournament of 64 teams where roughly, and you're probably trying to get one of, 28, 29 auto bid or at-large bids?
And you're trying to peak at the right time in March.
Right.
So this ranking here in the beginning of the year doesn't
Would you rather be ranked number one in the preseason or win the NIT?
Hold on.
I probably made a bad bad comparison there.
Well, K-State in 2011 was third or fourth to start the year. That didn't matter. That season didn't go nearly as good as they planned it to be.
No, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. But it does give a coach like Jerome Tang some fodder to use with his team.
If K-State's a top 10 team in February, that's what matters. Doesn't matter right now.
Sure. I do think people are sleeping on this team, though. And if you asked me this question early on in the offseason, I would say no, just because the losses of Noel and Johnson are huge. But top to bottom, I think this year's squad is without a doubt a deeper roster. They're going to have some tough decisions. The 9th, 10th, 11th man, who are we going to give these minutes to? Whereas last year was kind of cut and dry. Who's going to play? Who's going to redshirt? So it's going to be interesting to follow just the minutes that this staff can give out, over each game.
Are you saying that this team can beat last year's team?
Sure.
Like night in, night out, or?
No, I think it's probably more
4-3.
More of a coin flip.
Okay. Interesting.
Okay. That's a good. You just stand out there on that limb.
I think the loss of Desi Sills, though, is going to be huge.
I think you're exactly right. I think he's...
Because people talk about Noel and Johnson being gone. Can't forget about him.
I know.
But yeah, when you got him in the starting lineup, that was...
Yeah, you're welcome for that.
You are a trendsetter.
I try.
Next question.
Last question.
There we go.
From Jerome Yang, if the NCAA had chosen Go Power Cat instead of the IARP to rule on the KU case, what would the decision have been, and how long would it have taken?
Well, it would have taken a lot less time. But
it's not.
Look.
It's easy to not take more time than what they did.
My issue isn't the decision. I don't know the nuances of the allegations and what evidence they actually had. A lot of people get charged with murder and then they find out they didn't do it. It looked like they did it. Do I think there was a layer here of look, I'm going to bring up politics here, but usually when you legalize marijuana, you also go back and let people out of prison that were in jail or prison for simple marijuana charges, not trafficking in that. And I think there was a sense of, look, all this is pretty much legal now. They're literally doing this with Adidas in the open now. What are we doing? I don't think that was right. I think they should be held accountable for what they did, but I'm not in a position to judge what they did properly. But I think we now know this. The IARP was totally useless. It was a joke. I think the investigators milked it for money, milked this length of this for money. And I'm in an odd position of defending KU. I think being under investigation for 5 or 6 years is a penalty. I think it was absurd to have that process drag on and hover over that program for so long. It went on so long and made me so angry at how inefficient it was, I started siding with Kansas.
On the contrary,
okay,
KU, well, not necessarily KU, but this investigation kicking the can down the road so far, kind of like what you said, they waited so long that it became legal.
Right.
So in the end, whether KU delayed, whether the IARP delayed, the delay benefited KU. Ultimately.
I said this in my daily delivery on this topic. The only thing we've learned from this, and we'll never have another IARP investigation because it was so bad they just shut it down. It was a fiasco. That you don't cooperate with the NCAA. Oklahoma State did. They're the ones who got punished the most. Everyone else went the AIRP route, and it worked out great for them. And that was supposed to be the independent, more fair and balanced, and they just ended up being a bunch of weasels. They didn't do their jobs in any way. Whether they brushed aside the allegations from Kansas or they just took so long when they knew nothing happened. Either way, they didn't do their job. Don't cooperate with the NCAA. They say you did something wrong, say no, even if you got blood on your hands. Don't talk to the cops, right, Zach?
That's exactly what
Don't talk to the quote-unquote good cop that's all friendly to you.
Don't talk to the cops. Ask for an attorney. Shut up.
Call for Mike. He's got this.
I don't know if I'd trust Mike on the NCAA.
I don't think but yeah, it's the whole process just gummed it up, and I think it's another signal that the NCAA will be trashed and reinvented. Let's keep this in mind. I actually heard a sports writer who should be knowledgeable, or maybe as a broadcaster, was a national person. They need to have an organization that's run by the schools. That's what the NCAA is. It is a membership-driven organization. But those working in the office have just gotten this really weird thing going where they're hostile and not. And honestly, I think the NCAA thinks too much about their own revenue in these processes. I just think that comes into the picture. That's why we see Oklahoma State hammered and the big programs get off easy, because the NCAA wants those schools in the tournament for revenue. But again, I don't think KU was treated fairly in this, even if they were overly fair in their assessment of the penalties, and you can be mad about it. This going on this long is total trash and was ridiculous.
You want to fix something, just let the NCAA hire the compliance people, and they put them in to the athletic departments. Don't let athletic departments hire their own compliance people, because they're going to cover up, whatever stuff they need to do. There's a conflict of interest there. So if the NCAA really wants to, and if the institutions really want to make things fair, in the case of cheating, all of your compliance officers are in a pool, you get drawn out, you go somewhere for 5 years, whatever, and then you rotate. That's what you do.
Job.
There's your daily delivery.
Here's my problem with that is you've got wealthy donors who will bribe the shit out of those guys and gals. They will. They absolutely will. The compliance officers, there's no way I'd want to be one. You're the bad guy in the house. You're the guy that tells the kids to clean up. And some compliance officers, like the ones John Curry hires, actually just pester the crap out of their own coaches and just make up rules. and make their lives miserable. And then some compliance officers are like, I didn't see it. There's Sergeant Schultz from Hogan's Heroes. I didn't see it. Nothing going on here. And just ignore things. So there is a difference in how schools apply these rules to themselves. I think they need to take the NCAA rule book and get it down to about 5 pages of rules per sport. I mean, there's probably things that go on in track that don't matter, that's different from football or basketball. The rules are just intrusive, obscene, wordy, stupid. One of my favorite sports quotes of all time is, I grew up in Salina. I grew up watching Marymount College basketball, RIP Marymount. They're not around anymore. But they were a national power at NAIA, and Ken Cochran, the coach, had a great quote on it. He said, the NAIA has 2 rules. Don't cheat, and if you do, turn yourself in. Now, there's a lot of truth to that. I mean, just strip it down to make it easy to know. Every fan should know, ooh, we can't do this. Ooh, we can't do that. Because right now with the NIL and everything else, it's pretty gray out there. I mean, we literally have fans putting money into NIL to buy a recruit, which still is illegal. Folks, it's still illegal to use the NIL for recruiting. Is the NCAA doing anything about it, Zach?
No.
Got to start over.
But if you start over, I feel like the schools would get together and say, this is legal. This is allowable.
They should.
Yeah.
They should. They should decide what the rules are. And set the speed limit, enforce the speed limit, and hammer those who go too fast. You got to hammer people. I don't care if it's a lightweight or a national blue blood in the sport. You got to have equity in how you treat institutions. If it's wrong, it's wrong. That's it for this edition of the PowerCat Questions podcast. These 2 guys got to get in the road because they're covering Big 12 Basketball Media Day. Starts Wednesday. The men do. Women were Tuesday today, in which we're recording this. But Jerome Tang tips it all off at, I'm going to say it, the Sprint Center. It's still the Sprint Center in my heart.
Always.
T-Mobile Center in the morning. We'll be there. Probably hanging out in the drum room with the president tonight. I'm jealous. I hate you guys. That's it. I hate them.
Thank you for listening to the PowerCat Podcast. Make sure you're subscribing to our show at Apple, Spotify, Amazon, or wherever you get your podcasts.
With Blue Link Plus, you can access your Hyundai Tucson Limited remotely. Doors unlocked, temperature set, lost car found.
There it is.
Get complimentary class-leading Blue Link Plus. Call 562-314-4603 for complete details.
Get in on the action with the world's largest sports book right at your fingertips. Circa Sports Iowa is where the pros play. Enjoy the highest limits, lowest takeouts, competitive betting menus, and the best customer service. Now you can download, fund, and bet like a pro from anywhere in Iowa. Circa Sports Iowa. Sports betting the way it should be. Download your new bookie today. Visit circasports.com for details.